Let's talk a little bit about ECW for a moment. You know, it's clear to the company that, hey, they're circling the drain here. Everybody's trying to abandon ship, and we've even reached out and made an offer for their head honcho, Paul Heyman, to come over. But it's also in the newsletter at this time, you know, for several weeks that Paul's trying to land a big TV deal. But as we get closer and closer to No Way Out, the reports start to read more like now he's looking for a buyer. Supposedly between 4 and 7 million is what he needs to clear up in debt. Some of his own money, some of his parents' money, some outside sources. But still, he's looking for a lifeline, and it doesn't come from the WWF. Was there ever any discussion about, hey, let's just buy these guys outright?
There was discussion, but was it serious discussion? I would say no to that one. Because we knew the dire straits that unfortunately Paul was in financially, and we figured that the logical conclusion in his story, in his case, was bankruptcy.
Right.
And at that point in time, if that occurred, and I think it did, we were prepared to buy the assets, which included the library, out of bankruptcy court or in bankruptcy court. So no, not really. You know, we've been helping Paul.
Right.
I think we paid Paul $50,000 a month because it came out of my talent relations budget.
No, wait, I've heard it was $1,000 a week. That would be $50,000 a year. You're saying you think it was $50,000 a month?
Boy, that you got me. I can't remember. Well, I don't remember. It's not long ago. It sounds like a lot of money, but in the big picture, the big scheme of things, it really wasn't. Yeah, I think it was. Well, that $50,000 a month number sticks out, but I may be wrong on that too. In any event, here's the bottom line of the story without doing all the math and getting all fucked up about was it this, was it that? Not you, but just in general.
Yeah.
You know, shit, man, we were helping them.
Right.
They were getting he was getting a regular check to try to keep his doors open longer so that if he did indeed have a legitimate buyer, that he had more time to negotiate a deal. Vince was very, very kind to Paul in that regard. Because it'd been very easy to
squash him.
Yeah. Put him out of business. You know, all of his top talent wanted to leave because you could go back and look in time. I hired most of them.
That's right.
You know, Dudley's, Taz, and others. The ones we got everybody we wanted, quite honestly. And they were calling me. I wasn't soliciting them. They were calling me because at Vince's insistence, we're not going to go out of our way to do anything harmful to ECW. We wanted to buy the library at some point.
Right.
Because we had the goal to do this network. You know, we'd already purchased a AWA library and others. So we wanted the library more than anything. And then Vince is going to leave it up to me on talent to bring in because, quite honestly, and I say this in all due respect, because some ECW alum will get pissed off, and is the fact that we were not going to do anything to steal talent. But when talent came to us and said, we're going to leave here, we're looking, and this WCW was in business at that time. You know, I had to either, you know, take a dump or get off the pot.
Right.
And so, but Vince that was not Vince's forte. He didn't watch ECW television.
Right.
I'm not so sure he was overly familiar with who the Dudleys were. I don't think he was overly familiar with who Taz was, among others. He just didn't watch that show.
Right.
And so at that time, I think they were on the MSG network, I believe. I'm not sure. Saturday nights about midnight or something. And I was, you know, I watched it pretty regularly, I'd say. I was very familiar with the talent. So when they called, I knew who they were. So it was just, we didn't want to screw up. Vince is a lot kinder to Paul than other promoters could have been. He was very good in that regard. So, but we knew that it was giving them that money or paying Paul was like moving moving around the deck chairs on the Titanic. You kind of knew it's going down. So you just tried to stop the bleeding as best you can and get in line for some of those talents because they did have some really good talent. And again, as I said, I think we did a nice job of hiring the best they had.
Let me ask, you said a few times that Vince was nicer to Paul than maybe he had to be. in his dealings. Because don't get me wrong, at some point, a lot of promoters have to make some pretty cutthroat decisions. This seems to be like he's handling Paul with a lot of kindness. Why do you think that is? Is it because he felt like Paul was going to be a future player for him? He respected what he had done. He had a relationship that went back years and years. What was it about Paul that?
Well, I don't think it's the fact that he went back. Their relationship was very, very strong. I think it was the fact that Vince recognized talent.
Right.
And for any of us to try to argue the point that Paul Heyman didn't have significant talent from a cerebral standpoint would be ridiculous. And he did a lot with a little engine that could. Paul did a phenomenal job. I don't want to say brainwashing, because that's so extremely negative, but something motivating, whatever you want to say. But even to this very day, I listen to Busted Open on a regular basis because I like the guys that are on it, Dave LaGreca and Bubba. But Bubba talks about ECW in glowing terms, even though his pay was late, seemingly more often than not, and he had to wear multiple hats to earn more money to pay the tab, pay your rent, and so forth. So there was still a strong feeling of loyalty to the brand by some of their alums. And I don't have a problem with that. I'm very loyal to Mid-South Wrestling because that's where I got my start.
Right.
Real simple. So Paul did a good job of us against the world mentality, and that's worked in football. It's worked in ball games. Nobody thinks they'll win, guys. It's just us in this room.
Right.
Nobody else. And so it's up to us to go out and prove everybody wrong type deal. And the brand was very defiant in its presentation.
Yes.
And some of those guys are still very defiant in defending ECW. They had a very unique brand. They had a very unique camaraderie within the locker room, which is pretty cool. So Vince just didn't, we knew we were going to get those guys, or we we wanted to get a lot of their guys. We need to freshen up our roster. They had some good talents. They were looking for their break. They had proven that they could work through challenging circumstances, i.e. not getting paid on a regular basis at times. So we kind of knew what we wanted to get out of ECW. The library, number one, and select talents, number two. And all that worked out. We knew we could do better if we stayed closer, as in 19 is to 20 to Paul, and showed him our loyalty. But look, if the only person we got out of that deal was Paul Heyman and no talent, we win.
Yeah. Because
he's a brilliant TV writer and a great creative guy, and one of the smartest I've ever been around. And I've been around some smart guys. Very, very lucky, very fortunate for me.
We're helping people save money at SaveWithConrad.com. And with all the economic turmoil going on the last few weeks and all the uncertainty it brings, here's one thing that is certain. Your home is still worth more than what you paid for it. According to the Zillow Home Value Index, the value of your home is still going up year over year, which means you're most likely sitting on untapped equity. Did you purchase your home or refinance it a few years back and got one of those really low COVID interest rates, and now maybe you're worried about giving it up? Well, here's something to think about. While the interest on your mortgage payment is low, the interest you're paying on your credit card balances is most likely wiping out those savings and then some. So what's more important, clinging on to that low rate or saving money each month? Let's talk about using the equity you've built up in your home and rolling all that debt into one lower monthly payment. Someone who just did that was our man Andrew, a maintenance worker in Tennessee. He needed to pay off some debt, and he needed to get a new roof and some new floors for his home. So instead of taking out more debt to do these upgrades, he came to SaveWithConrad.com to use the equity he's built up in his home and do a refinance. SaveWithConrad.com helped him accomplish all of those upgrades he wanted on his home. He paid off his debt, and now he's saving over $400 a month. He even got to skip his next 2 house payments. And you can do it too. Go right now to SaveWithConrad.com and let my team run the numbers for you for free. There's no cost and no obligation. And if we can't help you save some money today, we won't waste your time. It doesn't cost a thing to look, and you've got nothing to lose except some crazy high interest rates on those credit cards. You know you can do better. Start saving money today for your family with my family at savewithconrad.com. NMLS number 2129, equal housing lender.